Welcome to Wesley Impact. This is the program where we invite you to see the work that Wesley Mission does every day of the year, helping people across New South Wales and Australia however we can. At Wesley Mission, we believe that every person is valuable to God, and so every person is valuable to us. Last week, we saw an important part of our work in Wollongong, about an hour south of Sydney. We followed a member of Wesley Mission's team, Amy, as she worked with Heen in our Opportunity Pathways program. We helped Heen out of a domestic violence situation, supported her with childcare and financial literacy. We also provided her with employment training through our Wesley Vocational Institute, where Heen is currently studying a Cert 4 in Community Services and undertaking a job placement that we helped to organise.
Transporting a person that's from a sitting position to actually getting up, always place the frame in front of the person. 3, and with your hand on their back, just help them to get up, nice and gently.
I have a question.
Yes,
what
hon.
happens if that person don't want you to help to stand up?
If the person doesn't want you to help them stand up, of course it's consent. You would have to educate them.
Wesley Vocational Institute is a registered training organisation, or RTO, within Wesley Mission, providing accredited training in New South Wales and also parts of Australia.
And on the 3rd rock, up, and there we go. Nice and steady, head up.
Yep.
Okay, and slowly move. Keep your hand on their back.
I just have a question. Why you needed to ask them to rock?
Why do we get the person to rock?
Yeah.
We get the person to rock, it actually helps them to moment their body to get up. Your head's like a weight, so we want the momentum of them moving. It's nice and smooth. Once the person is finished, you need to clean all the areas. They've sat on the chair, used the walker, you must clean all the areas with whatever the organisation says they use to clean. Is there any other questions?
From an accredited training perspective, our history goes back to 1999. From a non-accredited perspective, our history goes back over 125 years.
What is that strap thing called?
Some places call them pelican belts, some places will call them Johnny belts.
Wesley Mission has 4 fixed sites: Wollongong, Sydney, Newcastle Hunter region and also Port Macquarie. And we deliver training more broadly from Shoalhaven region right up to the Queensland border.
And we'll keep walking.
Education as a major tool for anyone breaking out of a cycle of their life.
Where did the name Pelican Belt and Johnny Belt come from?
We believe that every life matters. We want to make the opportunity for every student that comes in here a good experience, to let them know that they are clever, they are smart, that they can study, and we're going to give you the tools and the resources to get that done, because if you can change your mind, you can change your life.
BP, we know it as BP. What is a normal blood pressure, do we think? If you look at a textbook,
A lot of our students mainly come from job actives. We do work very closely with Opportunity Pathways, which is another Wesley Mission wraparound service.
are you happy for me to do your blood pressure?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so let's have a look. Can you mind rolling your arm over? Can you please hold that so I can look at the numbers?
Opportunity Pathways supply us with a lot of their clients to come into our programs and to study in our Cert 2s and Cert 3s.
Use your fingers.
We have tools to be able to equip people to be able to gain employment, go above and beyond to actually help that person finish their course, help them with their struggles in their studies, because at the end of it, we know if they can get that certification, they've just increased their opportunities to gain better employment.
You want me to be a patient? You can come.
We're all good to go. You all right for me to take your blood pressure?
Yes.
Yeah. You do me one other favour? Just relax your arm on your leg for me, please. And would you kindly hold that for me, please?
Heen's a really good example of what a student can do when they put their mind to something and are prepared to move past where they've been. Together, working with Opportunity Pathways, we understood Heen's story. We understand her current predicament and challenges that she currently faces. We individualised her study to her life at that time.
She had a good blood pressure. It was all good. She's nice and healthy than me.
Is my heart big or small?
Oh, big heart. You got a big heart. Bigger than mine.
Everything starts with the way we think. Everything starts with the education of our mind. And if we can somehow, working together with Opportunity Pathways, change their mind or their perspective for the better to see a positive in what they're doing, we believe we've made the first big step for them to be able to create a positive change in the immediate term of their life, but also in their own self-worth.
You can hold that one. Can I try it on you?
Yes, you can try it on me, definitely.
I've never done this before.
Yes.
Just above that there.
Yep. So nice and firm, that's it. I will hold it, now pump it. Pump it up to about 140. Keep going. Did you hear anything? No?
No, I didn't hear any beep.
You didn't
It just, this goes.
Yeah.
But I can hear your pulse.
You can hear my pulse now? There we
Yeah.
go. I'm alive, which is good.
How are you going with everything?
Not too bad.
You're doing so much better, it's amazing. I'm an employment coach for Opportunity Pathways. I work with people that are living in social housing or receiving a rent choice subsidy.
Opportunity Pathways is a voluntary program, unlike other employment services programs. People come to us because they want to be here, not because they're mandated, by the government to be there. So they come to us because they want that one-on-one support to help them achieve their goals in employment and education.
How would you feel about going to Wesley Mission to do a course?
Easy for me.
Yeah, I guess it's like you're already doing,
Yeah,
so.
I start with
Yeah.
the course for how long already.
Yeah,
so
yeah, you're
it's
nearly
easy.
finished now,
I'm
which
quite
is really
comfortable
exciting.
in the office anyway.
Yeah, you definitely make yourself at home. He has to complete 40 hours of work placement for the Certificate 3 in Community Services.
Future security.
So how do you feel about your future? So with the support that Wesley Mission offers, do you feel like it's giving you a brighter future? Heen is currently completing her work placement at MCCI, which is a multicultural service. She's only very new to that role, we've only been there for a couple of weeks now, but the feedback I've gotten from her is that she's really, really enjoying it and finding it to be a really supportive environment. Work placement fits into the overall service we provide because it fits in with her training and employment goals. The main thing is their confidence. As much as I have to focus on training and employment, their well-being and mental health is always my main priority.
Yeah, I have plenty homework to do and a day of workplace, so it's so
cool. So from the looks of things, you've definitely stepped up from the last time we did this, which is really exciting. You're definitely suitable for community services. Your heart is just so pure and you love helping people, so I definitely feel like all the choices you made are the right ones.
At Wesley Mission, we work with those people most in need, and many people that come to us at Opportunity Pathways, they just really need someone to walk alongside of them into their employment journey and to help them achieve their goals.
How are you feeling about the upcoming interview?
a little bit nervous.
Yeah.
Often they don't know how to prepare a resume or a cover letter or a job application because they haven't been taught. So it's really important that we offer that coaching through the employment coaches and the program managers so that we can help.
So Hin, I've got a couple of questions here that we can go over just to help increase your confidence within the job interview. What kind of activities do you find stressful within the workplace?
We've seen people come along and just their confidence increase to the point where they then go and do their work placement and they feel more comfortable, then be able to go for an interview and make those changes in their lives.
Not every day is the same, so this will just help them understand how you manage stress and where you also may need a little bit of support as well going into a new role.
Our partnership with Opportunity Pathways is vital. They understand the work we do, we understand the work they do. Our relationship, we actually work together with that individual student. So we meet their vocational need, Opportunity Pathways meet their personal need, and we bring those two together to produce a really good outcome for that client. And primarily to see them educated and moving into employment is our main goal.
What we're going to do today is we're going to actually practice using a slide sheet, a piece of equipment that is used very highly in aged care facilities.
On an annual average, our training organisation would engage with around 1,000 learners per year. Within our training organisation, we have this real commitment to always find ways in which we can continually improve on what we do. And most of that is driven by talking to industry, trying to make sure that our training remains relevant to meet the needs of industry moving forward. And if we have that, then we have what we would consider to be a strong, reliable product to be able to offer our students. And if we can create those meaningful pathways and keep that at the core of the training that we deliver, then that will always ensure that our product remains of a high standard and relevant to the needs of our learners.
On the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Roll over to the side. If you can hang on to her for me, please. And pull the bottom out, and we just pull the sheet out from underneath.
Faith is a pretty strong tool in many different aspects of education and our work conduct. For every individual that our organisation works with and provides a qualification, it leaves a little bit of the DNA of the work and experiences that they've had with Wesley, and it pays that forward in the quality of care that our community members receive, and know that the quality of care in our communities has been improved by the work that we do as well.
If students can get educated, then they can change the way they think. We see changes in their behaviour, they're getting better opportunities, and that we see the effect not just on the individual person, but on the families that are connected with that person as well. We're not just about giving students certificates for the sake of it. We want to see employment outcomes. Gain better employment, and you're on a good path to be able to change your life.
If you would like to learn more about Wesley Mission, visit wesleymission.org.au. You can find help in our community services, connect with our church and congregations, discover a volunteer role that suits you, stay up to date on the latest news and information, donate to support our work, and help make a positive difference in your community. You can also connect with us on social media and subscribe to receive the latest news and information about Wesley Mission directly into your inbox. Visit wesleymission.org.au.
Our Wesley Vocational Institute operates in a number of sites across New South Wales. If you or a loved one would like to explore what training courses might help you to achieve your career goals, we'd love to hear from you. Our contact details are on the screen now. Now, we're partway through a discussion looking at church in a post-COVID world with social researcher Mark McCrindle, Senior Research Fellow Dr. Justine Toe, and CEO of an international ministry, Mike Gore. A theme that's emerged from our conversation so far is a sense that a heightened spiritual awareness amongst Australians has come about as a result of the pandemic. I asked if this spirituality was primarily connected to the Christian faith or to the local church.
We consistently find this in lots of research, that while we think Australians are secular, Australians are not on a spiritual search at all, hard soil here in this country, the data shows the opposite. Firstly, that census data, yes, 30% of Australians say they're not religious, which means 70% are, religious across the category. Choose your option. But of that 30% who say they're not religious, about half of them, we found in our research, say that they're spiritual, they're just not religious. In other words, about 4 in 5 Australians identify with a religion or a spiritual perspective, and therefore are open to discussing these things. And in that Future of the Church in Australia report you mentioned, Stu, one of the key recommendations is we need to change our internal narrative as Christians or as the church or in ministry, because we are thinking everyone hates us, no one's interested in spiritual things, no one's on any sort of got any interest or acuity towards the things of the metaphysical, and it turns out not to be the case at all. And the hard soil, in fact, one of our interviewees said, no, the hard soil is here in the heads of a lot of church and Christian leaders. We've got to change that mindset and just communicate and connect with Australians who are open for a conversation and are on their own spiritual journey themselves.
Yeah. I'm going to ask all of you, if you have a hope for the year ahead for recovery, what's the hope you have for the church in Australia? I'll start with you, Mike.
Look, I think mine probably ties into what these guys were talking about, is that I think what we've seen in the research is that Australia is intensely spiritual. And I was saying to Justine before that it's almost like an Eastern version of spirituality, in that we have never been more anti-Christian, right? So Open Doors would say we've gone from Christian to non-Christian to anti-Christian sentiment in society. But the funny thing is, Christianity and spirituality, they can coexist, right? And so what we've found in countless times across the Middle East, I've spent a fair bit of time in Syria and Iraq and places like that, is that when Muslims become disenfranchised with Islam, the question is not, is there a God? The question is, which God? So in an intensely spiritual society, never before has the opportunity to talk about God been more open and receptive. Now, the wrestle of God is that what I look around society and culture and see is that we spend a lot of time debating the idiosyncrasies and the changing values of society and culture. And so my hope for the church as we move forward in this next season is to see that, I call it the Great Divergence. COVID has provided one side of the unbelieving or the spiritual world are crying out saying, God, where are you, right? Desperately seeking the stability that a God figure provides. And then you've got such a large part of the church crying out, God, where are you? Where have you gone? What's happened with COVID? And so if we're not careful, this great divergence happens. Whereas if Christians can just hold the line and realise that Jesus is still on the throne, that his promise is still true and good, well, this side of the world that is crying out for the desperate need of a saviour, never before has it been more opportunity-filled to share the gospel.
Awesome. Preach, brother. Justine.
I think it's worth saying that when it comes to events like this, you're all looking this way, and we can fall into the trap of thinking that the impressive, the things that are on the headlines, that this is where it's all at. But if we know anything about Jesus and his ministry on earth and ever since, there's a real overturning of everything that the world would hold dear. So we know that the first will be last and the last will be first. So in some ways, while it's great to have the research, I'm always having to remind myself, even though it's so obvious, that not only does God do his work in the dark, but he does it on the margins. He does it in individual hands and feet. People who would never be footnoted by history, but these are the people through whom I think God is bringing change. And I think that is such a powerful thing to remember, because in the end, it's not the headlines that really count in God's economy. It's the people who are part of his kingdom, just patiently labouring away day in, day out in order to reflect the values of his kingdom.
Yeah, so good. That's what's key, isn't it? All of us as believers being those points of light, and not just expecting the organised church or church and clergy professionals to minister to our land, but all of us to do that. Just with that data on the census, 52% identifying with Christianity, so it's still in majority share at the moment. The National Church Life Survey data tells us only 15% of Australians go to church. So some quick early morning maths on that tells us that the church that doesn't go to church is 37% of Australians. That's the biggest church in our land. More than a third of Australians tick Christianity on the census form and never go to church. And what an opportunity we have. And they sit beside us at work, they're on public transport, they're part of our community organisations, and they're putting their hand up saying Christianity is my thing. And yet they're not connecting in any community sense around that. And what an opportunity and, I think, obligation we have to connect with those people. And they're not going to be met by just church leaders because they're not coming in the doors of church. It's up to all of us to minister to them, and from there, I think, beyond to our broader community.
We will have the final instalment of that conversation with Mark, Justine and Mike next week, and we'll discuss the notion of what it means to have an authentic Christian faith.
I think people are amazing. We can turn dark to light. We can fly through storms. We can change worlds, but we can't always do it alone. If you need help, we could work together. Find out more at wesleymission.org.au. We are here for you.
I'd like to continue in my series looking at the work that God is calling us to do in our Word and Deed ministry and the exciting adventure ahead of us. I believe God is calling us to be people who have soft hearts, sharp minds, hard feet and open hands. This week, I focus on how a soft heart, it's purpose-driven.
God has given us our marching orders, our travel guide, our lonely planet, if you like. He's given us our travel guide. It's there in the Great Commission. He says, go into all the world and make disciples, baptizing them in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, teaching them everything I've commanded you. And lo, I'm with you to the end of the age. He's given us our marching orders. So we're called to go, not to stay, but to go and make disciples with and for Jesus and in the power of the Holy Spirit, because Jesus goes with us. And so Wesley Mission, our vision, our mission is encapsulated in that Great Commission command of Jesus. We are called to continue the work of Jesus Christ in word and deed. And there's nothing more central to the work and ministry of Jesus Christ than to make disciples who make disciples who make disciples. That's at the heart of our story. Always has been, always will be, and always should be. And so what God is calling His church to be in this next season, not just our Wesley Mission family, but the church that proclaims the gospel, is to be obsessively, sacrificially, passionately, and exclusively surrendered to this purpose to make disciples. Our world desperately needs to hear the good news that we have in our hands and our hearts. Our world desperately needs good news. They need to hear the gospel with which we've been entrusted. And a couple of weeks ago at our community services dedication, I shared something of my heart for our Wesley Mission family in this next season. And this holds not just for community services, but for our congregational life expression as well. I really believe that in this next season, as we continue the work of Jesus Christ in word and deed, that God is calling us to be people of soft hearts, hearts that are moved with the compassion of Jesus. That God is calling us to be people with sharp minds, minds that pursue justice. That God is calling us to be people with hard feet, feet that are prepared to go wherever, whenever, and to whomever with the good news. I believe God is calling us to be people with open hands. Hands that are not clinging to the legacy we've been entrusted, but open hands ready to see that legacy extended into a new season, into a new age. So soft hearts, sharp minds, hard feet, open hands. And what I want to focus on here and what the Lord has laid on my heart for us today as our congregational life family is to dive deeper in what it means to be a people of soft hearts, because it begins here with us. So we have hearts that are moved with the compassion of Jesus. And what I want to share with you is I believe a soft heart is a purpose-driven heart. It's a passionate heart. It's a prayerful heart, and it's a persevering heart. I couldn't get away from alliteration today. But let's have a look at each of those in turn. A soft heart is a purpose-driven heart. You know, when you read the four Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, you'll discover that Jesus is referred to as sent 44 times. 44 times it refers to Jesus as being sent by the Father, sent on mission. You know, I love how D.T. Niles puts it. God had only one son, and He made that son a missionary. We serve a missionary God. Jesus is referred to as sent 44 times by the Father, and He's sent for a purpose: to redeem, to restore, to rescue, to reconcile a world that has been estranged from the Father by sin and by the fall. And so we see it encapsulated, of course, in the most famous verse in the Bible. For God so loved the world that He sent His one and only Son, that whosoever believes in Him shall not perish, but will have everlasting life. Jesus was sent for the whosoevers, for those who are separated from God because of their sin. You see, I think I'm not stretching it when I say that Jesus was sent with a purpose, and the heart of His purpose were people. People were His purpose. And when you look at the ministry of Jesus, you'll see that again and again and again. He moves to the margins. He goes to the people. He responds to their need. He's always being moved with compassion by the people's needs. And so if people were Jesus' purpose, then it flows. If we have been sent by Him to continue His mission, people are our purpose. Not programs, not ministries, but people. People are our purpose. Because Jesus says, as the Father sent me, I am sending you. He sends us and commissions us into ministry. And so, over the 3 years of His public ministry, of course, He made disciples of this disparate group of men and women who are around Him. And He formed them into these discipleship cohort who He then commissions after His resurrection. And they went and they made disciples, and they made disciples, and they made disciples, and they made disciples. And here we are today. You and I are their legacy. That they heard Jesus call. They heard Him commission them. They heard Him send them. And they obeyed. and they stepped out faithfully to follow his call.
I'd love to encourage you as we finish our program this week. Faith is an adventure that God calls us into, and that invitation is open to you. I'm so glad that I took that step in my own life. I've never looked back. Over the coming weeks, we'll look at how a soft heart is also passionate, prayerful, and persevering. As always, please get in touch if Wesley Mission can be of help to you or a loved one in any way at all. We are here for you. I'll see you next week on Wesley Impact. Every blessing to you and to those you love.